The switch sat under her fingertips like a loaded gun. Corinne's voice echoed through the courtyard, screaming about theft and property rights, her phone already raised to call the police. 30 residents had gathered, their faces a mix of confusion and accusation. Maya took one breath, felt the weight of every assumption they'd made about her, and flipped the breaker. The silence that followed wasn't just the absence of sound. It was the death of Corinne's credibility, captured on 6 different phones, about to go viral in a neighborhood that would never forget. Part 1. Maya Chen stood in her driveway at 6:15 on a Tuesday morning, watching the Tesla's charging indicator glow steady blue. She'd owned the Model Y for 3 months, and the morning routine had become meditative. Plug in after the evening commute, unplug before dawn, head to the office by 7. Simple, clean, her own business. The Riverside Commons Homeowners Association had approved her wall-mounted charger installation in writing. She had the email thread saved in 3 different folders. The electrician's permit hung in her garage, county-stamped and official. The charger drew power from her own meter, added roughly $40 to her monthly electric bill, and bothered absolutely no one. Until it did. "Excuse me, excuse me." Maya turned. A woman in a powder blue tracksuit was speed walking across the courtyard, her blonde bob bouncing with each aggressive step. Maya recognized her vaguely, someone from the North Side townhomes, always visible at community meetings, always talking. "Can I help you?" Maya asked. The woman stopped 3 feet away, hands on hips, lips pressed into a line that suggested moral authority. "I'm Corinne Whitmore, HOA president. We need to discuss your charging station." Maya felt her stomach tighten but kept her voice level. "It was approved by the board. I have all the documentation." "That's not the issue." Corinne's eyes flicked to the charger, then back to Maya's face. "The issue is community equity." "I'm sorry. You're using community resources for personal benefit. That charging station is attached to a building that's part of the HOA. Technically, it's community property, and you're monopolizing it." Maya blinked. The charger was bolted to the exterior wall of her garage attached to her townhome which she owned. "I paid for the installation. I pay for the electricity it uses. It's on my property." "The exterior walls fall under HOA jurisdiction," Corinne said, her voice taking on a rehearsed quality, as if she'd been practicing this argument. "Section 12, paragraph 4 of the CC&RS. Any modifications to exterior surfaces require ongoing community oversight." "I got approval." "Approval for installation, not for exclusive use." Corinne smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Several residents have expressed interest in electric vehicles. It's only fair that the charging station be available to everyone." Maya's pulse started to hammer. "You want me to let strangers use my charger, the one I paid for?" "I want you to recognize that you're part of a community. We all make sacrifices, we all share." Corinne pulled out her phone, tapped the screen. "I've been documenting this. Every morning your car is plugged in. Every evening it's plugged in. That's 12 to 14 hours of daily usage, completely monopolizing a community resource." "It's not a community resource." "Your tone is very aggressive right now." Corinne's finger hovered over her phone. "I'm going to need you to calm down." Maya forced herself to breathe. She'd dealt with difficult people before. Her job in tech support required patience with the inexplicable. But this was different. This was her home, her property, her money. "I'm calm," Maya said carefully. "I'm just trying to understand what you're asking." "I'm not asking. I'm informing you that as of this week, the charging station will be considered community property, available on a first-come, first-served basis. I'll be sending out an email to all residents with instructions on proper usage etiquette." "You can't do that." "I absolutely can. I'm the HOA president. This falls under my discretionary authority for community resource management." Corinne's smile widened. Unless you'd like to take it up with the board at next month's meeting, I'm sure they'd love to hear why you think you're entitled to special privileges. Maya felt the trap closing. Next month's meeting was 4 weeks away. 4 weeks of Corinne sending emails, poisoning the well, framing Maya as the selfish outsider who refused to share. 4 weeks of her neighbors looking at her differently, whispering in the courtyard. "I'll be at the meeting," Maya said quietly. "Wonderful. In the meantime, please remember that the charger is community property. I'll be monitoring usage to ensure fairness." Corinne turned and walked away, her tracksuit swishing with each step. Maya stood alone in her driveway, the morning sun climbing over the roofline, and felt something cold settle in her chest. She'd moved to Riverside Commons 8 months ago, attracted by the quiet streets and reasonable HOA fees. She'd kept to herself, paid her dues on time, followed every rule. And now this. She pulled out her phone and opened the Nextdoor app. Corinne had already posted. Community announcement. EV charging station now available. Great news, neighbors. After discussions with the resident at 847 Cypress Lane, we've agreed to make the EV charging station available to all Riverside Commons residents. This is a wonderful example of community sharing and equity. Please be respectful of charging times and remember to unplug when your vehicle is full. First come, first served basis. Questions can be directed to me. Corinne Whitmore, HOA President. The post already had 12 likes, 3 comments. So generous. Love seeing neighbors share resources. This is great. I've been thinking about getting a Prius. Finally, someone who understands community values. Maya felt nauseous. Corinne had framed it as if Maya had volunteered, had willingly offered to share. No mention of the argument, the accusations, the threat. Just a sunny announcement that painted Maya as cooperative and Corinne as the facilitator of community harmony. She scrolled to the Nextdoor guidelines, wondering if she could report the post as misleading. But what would she say? That she'd been coerced. That Corinne had twisted the rules. It would look like backtracking, like she was the problem. Maya closed the app and went inside. Her townhome was small but efficient. 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, an open kitchen and living area. She decorated minimally, still unpacking after the move from her apartment downtown. Tech posters on the walls, a standing desk by the window, a cat tree where her tabby, Newton, was currently grooming himself. "We have a problem," Maya told the cat. Newton looked at her with profound indifference. Maya made coffee and pulled up the HOA CC and RS on her laptop. Section 12, Paragraph 4. All modifications to exterior surfaces, including but not limited to paint, fixtures, and structural additions, require prior written approval from the Architectural Review Committee. Approved modifications remain subject to ongoing compliance with community standards and may be subject to periodic review. Nothing about community property, nothing about shared usage. Corinne had extrapolated, had invented an interpretation that served her agenda. Maya opened her email and found the original approval thread from 3 months ago. The Architectural Review Committee, which consisted of Corinne, another board member named Dale, and a retiree named Phillies, had approved her charger installation with a single condition. Installation must be completed by licensed electrician and meet county electrical codes. No mention of sharing, no mention of community access. She drafted a response email, carefully worded, citing the original approval. She read it 3 times, checking for tone, for anything Corinne could twist into hostility. Then she hit send. The reply came 6 minutes later. "Maya, thank you for your email. I understand there may have been some miscommunication during the original approval process. However, as HOA president, I have a responsibility to ensure equitable access to community amenities. The charging station, while paid for by you, is attached to HOA-maintained property and falls under our jurisdiction. I'm confident we can resolve this amicably at next month's meeting. In the meantime, please be a good neighbor and allow community access as requested. Best regards, Karen Whitmore, HOA President, Riverside Commons. Maya read the email twice, parsing the careful language. Miscommunication, amicably, good neighbor, every word designed to make Maya look unreasonable if she resisted. She called her best friend, Jenna, who lived across town and had survived 3 different HOA nightmares. She's testing you, Jenna said immediately. This is textbook HOA dictator behavior. She picked you because you're new, you're quiet, and she thinks you'll fold. I have the approval in writing. Doesn't matter, she's banking on you not wanting to fight. Most people don't. They cave, they move, they suffer in silence. Jenna paused. What do you want to do? Maya looked out her window at the courtyard. A few residents were walking dogs, checking mailboxes. Normal people living normal lives. I want her to leave me alone. Then you need to fight. Document everything. Get a lawyer if you have to, but don't give an inch because if you do, she'll take a mile. I just wanted to charge my car. I know, but now it's about more than that. It's about her establishing dominance. You're the test case. If she breaks you, everyone else falls in line. Maya thanked her, hung up, and sat in silence. Newton jumped onto her lap, purring. She scratched behind his ears and thought about the life she'd built, the quiet life, the drama-free life. All of it suddenly fragile. That evening, she came home to find a Nissan Leaf plugged into her charger. The car was unfamiliar, silver with a dent in the rear bumper. Maya parked on the street and walked over. A note was tucked under her windshield wiper. Thanks for sharing. I'll try to keep it to 3 hours max. Unit 762. Maya stood there, keys in hand, trying to process the audacity. Unit 762 was on the south side, nowhere near her garage. Someone had walked across the entire complex to use her charger, as if it were a public amenity, a park bench, a community pool. She pulled out her phone and took pictures, the car, the note, the charger's display showing active charging. Then she waited. 3 hours turned into 4. The Leaf's owner, a man in his 50s, balding, wearing a golf shirt, finally appeared at 8:30. "Oh hey," he said cheerfully. "You must be the owner. Thanks so much for letting us use this. Real community spirit." "I didn't volunteer it," Maya said. The man's smile faltered. "Karen said it was available. First come, first served." "Karen doesn't own my charger." "Well, she's the HOA president. I figured she knew what she was talking about." He unplugged his car, the cord retracting with a snap. "Look, I don't want any trouble. I just need to charge my car like everyone else." "Then install your own charger." "I rent, the landlord won't approve it." He got into his Leaf, still talking through the open window. "This is a community, you know. People help each other out." He drove away before Maya could respond. She stood alone in the dimming light, her charger cable hanging loose, and felt the situation crystallizing. Karen had turned her neighbors against her without them even realizing it. They thought they were being reasonable, community-minded. They had no idea they were participating in a calculated power play. Maya went inside and spent 2 hours researching HOA law. California had specific statutes protecting homeowners' rights to install EV chargers. Civil Code Section 4745 explicitly prevented HOAs from prohibiting installations or imposing unreasonable restrictions. But it said nothing about forced sharing, nothing about community access. She drafted another email to the board, this time citing the statute, explaining her position calmly and clearly. She sent it at 10 p.m., then lay in bed staring at the ceiling, waiting for the inevitable response. It came at 6 a.m. "Maya, your continued resistance to community cooperation is concerning. No one is asking you to remove your charger. We're simply asking you to be a good neighbor. Your refusal to share a resource that's attached to community property suggests a fundamental misunderstanding of HOA living. I'll be placing this matter on the agenda for next month's board meeting. In the meantime, I strongly encourage you to reconsider your position. Additionally, I've received complaints about your tone and behavior toward fellow residents. Please remember that harassment and hostility violate our community guidelines. Regards, Karen Whitmore. Maya read the email 3 times, her hands shaking. Karen had escalated. She'd invented complaints, had accused Maya of harassment, all because Maya had told someone the truth, that the charger wasn't community property. She called in sick to work and spent the day at the county clerk's office, pulling records, her property deed, the HOA's incorporation documents, every email from the Architectural Review Committee. She made copies, organized them in a binder, highlighted relevant passages. That afternoon, she returned home to find a different car plugged into her charger, a Honda Clarity, no note this time. Maya unplugged it. The owner, a woman in her 30s pushing a stroller, appeared 10 minutes later. "What are you doing? I was charging." "This is my charger. I didn't give you permission." Karen said. Karen lied. "This is private property. You're trespassing." The woman's face flushed. "I have an electric car. I need to charge it. You can't just deny people access to the only charger in the complex." "I can actually, because it's mine." "That's so selfish." The woman snatched the cable from Maya's hand. "I'm reporting this to the board." "Please do." The woman stomped away, muttering about entitled people ruining the community. Maya locked her charger in her garage and went inside, her heart pounding. The next doorpost appeared an hour later. Disappointing behavior from resident. "I'm sad to report that despite our HOA president's efforts to foster community sharing, one resident has been actively hostile toward neighbors trying to use the EV charging station. This resident unplugged a vehicle mid-charge and was verbally aggressive to a young mother. This is not the Riverside common spirit. We can do better." The post had 23 likes within minutes. The comments were worse. "Who is it? We deserve to know. Some people don't understand what community means. I bet it's the woman in 847. She's always been standoffish. Can we vote to remove the charger if she won't share?" Maya's hands were shaking so hard she could barely type. She started to draft a response, then stopped. Anything she said would be twisted, used against her. Karen had poisoned the well too thoroughly. She called a lawyer instead. The consultation was brief and expensive. The attorney, a middle-aged woman named Patricia Reeves, listened to Maya's story and sighed. "HOA disputes are brutal," Patricia said. "Legally, you're in the right. The charger is your property, but proving that in a way that matters to your neighbors, that's the hard part." "What are my options?" "You can sue the HOA for harassment and seek an injunction preventing interference with your property. But that takes months, costs thousands, and turns you into a pariah in your own community. Or you can try to fight it internally. Go to the board meeting, present your case, hope for reason to prevail." "And if reason doesn't prevail?" Patricia leaned back in her chair. "Then you sell and move. That's what most people do. It's not fair, but it's reality. Karen has social power. She controls the narrative. Unless you can shift that dynamic, you're fighting uphill." Maya left the consultation feeling hollow. She'd spent $800 to be told she was powerless. That weekend, 3 more cars used her charger. She found notes, apologies, even a box of cookies from someone who felt bad about taking up her time slot. The last phrase stung, time slot, as if her own property operated on a reservation system. She started unplugging every unfamiliar car, documenting each one with photos. The next-door posts multiplied. Resident continues to sabotage community sharing. EV charger vandal strikes again. Is anyone else uncomfortable with this behavior? Maya stopped reading after the first dozen. She focused on her evidence instead: photos, timestamps, license plates. She prepared a presentation for the board meeting, complete with citations and legal precedents. But Karen was preparing too. The email arrived 2 weeks before the meeting. Dear Riverside Commons residents, it has come to my attention that one resident has been actively interfering with community access to the EV charging station. This resident has unplugged vehicles, confronted neighbors, and created a hostile environment. After careful consideration and consultation with the board, we have determined that the charging station must either be made available to all residents or removed entirely. The current situation is untenable and violates our community standards. The resident in question will have the opportunity to address the board at next month's meeting. Until then, we ask all residents to respect each other's property and refrain from using the charging station until this matter is resolved. Thank you for your patience and understanding. Karen Whitmore, HOA President. Maya read the email in disbelief. Karen had issued an ultimatum: share or remove, and she'd framed it as Maya's fault, as if Maya were the problem, not the person demanding access to property she didn't own. The comments on the Nextdoor thread were unanimous. Just share, it's not that hard. Some people are so greedy. I hope the board forces her to remove it. We don't need that kind of negativity. Maya wanted to scream. She wanted to stand in the courtyard and explain, slowly and clearly, that Karen was manipulating them, that this had nothing to do with sharing and everything to do with control. But she knew how it would look: desperate, defensive, exactly what Karen wanted. Instead, she went to work and said nothing. Her coworker, Andre, noticed her distraction during lunch. You okay? You've been checking your phone every 5 minutes. Maya told him everything: the charger, Karen, the emails, the mounting pressure. Andre listened, nodding occasionally, his expression darkening. You need to flip the script, he said finally. What do you mean? Karen's winning because she controls the narrative. She's the voice of the community, the reasonable one asking for fairness. You're the outsider refusing to share. That's the story everyone's bought into. So what do I do? You give them a different story, one that's so clear, so undeniable that Karen can't spin it. Andre pulled out his phone, scrolled through something. My brother had a similar issue with his HOA. President kept claiming the community pool was overcrowded, tried to impose usage limits. Turned out she just wanted to reserve it for her friends. He proved it by showing the actual usage logs. Pool was empty 70% of the time. How does that help me? Because you need to expose Karen's real motive. This isn't about sharing, it's about power. If you can prove that, if you can show everyone what she's actually doing, the whole thing collapses. Maya thought about it, the idea taking shape. I need evidence. You need leverage, Andre grinned, and maybe a little bit of patience. Over the next 2 weeks, Maya watched. She documented every car that used her charger, every resident who walked across the complex. She noted the times, the duration, the frequency, and she noticed something interesting. Karen's car, a white Lexus SUV, appeared 3 times, not to charge but to watch. Karen would park nearby, phone in hand, waiting, and when residents approached the charger, she'd sometimes intercept them, chatting, smiling, playing the role of helpful facilitator. It was performance, all of it. Maya started recording. Short clips, nothing intrusive. Just Karen talking to residents, gesturing toward the charger, her body language open and warm. The community's benevolent president fostering cooperation. Then Maya reviewed the Nextdoor posts and cross-referenced them with the timestamps. Every single post complaining about Maya's hostility appeared within hours of Karen's visits. Every accusation, every call for action, all timed perfectly to Karen's schedule. She was orchestrating it, Manufacturing outrage. Maya took her evidence to Jenna, who worked in PR and understood narrative warfare. Jenna reviewed everything, the videos, the timestamps, the next-door posts, and whistled low. This is textbook manipulation. She's using the residents as pawns, making them think they're acting independently when really she's feeding them the script. How do I prove it? You don't need to prove it to a jury. You need to prove it to the board, and more importantly, to the residents. You need to show them they're being used. How? Jenna smiled. You let Corinne overplay her hand. The board meeting was scheduled for a Thursday evening, 7 p.m. in the community clubhouse. Maya arrived at 6:45, her binder of evidence under her arm. The room was already half full, residents she recognized, some she didn't. Corinne sat at the head table with Dale and Phillies, looking calm and confident. Maya took a seat in the back and waited. The meeting started with routine business, landscaping budgets, pool maintenance schedules. Maya barely listened, her pulse hammering. Then Corinne cleared her throat. Item 7 on tonight's agenda is the EV charging station dispute. I think we all know the situation, but I'll summarize for clarity. Corinne launched into her version of events, how she tried to foster community sharing, how Maya had responded with hostility, how the situation had become untenable. She presented printouts of next-door posts, emails from concerned residents, even photos of the charger with different cars plugged in. This isn't about denying anyone their property rights, Corinne said, her voice dripping with reasonableness. It's about finding a solution that works for everyone. Maya installed this charger with HOA approval, which means it's subject to HOA oversight. We're simply asking for equitable access. Phillies nodded along. Dale looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Maya, would you like to respond? Corinne asked, her smile tight. Maya stood, her binder in hand. She walked to the front of the room, aware of every eye on her. She set the binder on the table and opened it. Everything Corinne just said is a lie, Maya began. The room went silent. I installed this charger with explicit approval from the Architectural Review Committee. No conditions were placed on its usage. No mention of community access. I have the emails here. She pulled out the first set of documents, passed them to Dale. You can verify them yourself. Dale scanned the pages, his frown deepening. These are accurate. We approved the installation, nothing else. Corinne's smile didn't waver. The approval was granted under the assumption of community benefit. No, it wasn't. Maya pulled out the second set of documents. The CC and RS state that exterior modifications are subject to ongoing compliance with community standards, but charging an electric car isn't a violation. It's normal use of approved equipment. There's nothing in our governing documents that requires me to share my personal property. Community spirit, Corinne started. Community spirit isn't legally binding. Maya's voice was calm, steady. California Civil Code Section 4745 explicitly protects homeowners' rights to install EV chargers. HOAs can't impose unreasonable restrictions. Demanding that I allow unrestricted access to equipment I paid for, that I'm solely responsible for maintaining, that draws electricity from my meter, that's unreasonable. Phillies looked uncertain now, but several residents have expressed interest in using the charger. And they're welcome to install their own. I'll even share the name of my electrician. Maya pulled out the third set of documents. Here's the cost breakdown. $1,500 for equipment and installation, about $40 a month in additional electricity. Anyone who wants their own charger can have one. This isn't about access, it's about control. That's a serious accusation, Corinne said, her voice sharp now. It's an observation. Maya pulled out her phone, opened the video app. Over the past 2 weeks, I've documented every instance of Corinne visiting my property. Not to charge a car. She drives a gas SUV. but to coordinate with residents, to stage encounters, to manufacture the appearance of community demand. She played the first video. Karen talking to a resident near the charger, gesturing, smiling. The timestamp showed it was 30 minutes before a next-door post complaining about Maya's behavior. Maya played 3 more videos, each one showing the same pattern. Karen's visits followed by posts. Karen's coordination followed by complaints. "You've been manipulating the residents," Maya said quietly, "using them to build a case against me, making them think they're acting independently when really you're directing them." The room was utterly silent. Dale stared at Karen. Phillies looked stricken. The residents shifted uncomfortably, some pulling out their phones to check their own posts. Karen's face was pale. "This is absurd. I'm the HOA president. I was trying to resolve a community dispute." "By inventing one," Maya closed her binder. "You saw an opportunity to exert control, to test your authority. You picked me because I'm new, because I keep to myself. You thought I'd fold, and when I didn't, you escalated. You lied to the residents, twisted the rules, and turned my neighbors against me, all to prove you could." "I don't have to listen to this." Karen stood, her chair scraping loudly. "You're clearly unstable." "Sit down, Karen," Dale said quietly. Karen turned to him, eyes wide. "Excuse me." "Sit down." Dale's voice was hard now. "Let her finish." Karen sat, her jaw tight. Maya took a breath. "I don't want to fight, I just want to charge my car in peace, but I won't be bullied, and I won't let you rewrite the rules to suit your agenda. The charger stays. It remains my property. And if anyone else wants to use it, they can ask me directly. Not go through you, not demand access, but ask, like a neighbor." She gathered her binder and returned to her seat. The room stayed silent for a long moment. Then a resident in the third row raised his hand. "I used the charger last week. Karen told me it was community property. I had no idea it was Maya's." Another resident stood. "Same, I thought she'd volunteered it." More voices joined, a cascade of realizations. Karen had lied to all of them, had manipulated them into believing a narrative that served her purposes. They'd been weaponized, turned into tools of harassment without even knowing it. Dale looked at Karen. "Do you have anything to say?" Karen's face was a mask of fury. "This is a witch hunt. You're all turning on me because one resident decided to play the victim." "You told us the charger was community property," Phyllis said, her voice shaking. "You said Maya had agreed to share. That was a lie, Karen." "It was a simplification." "It was a manipulation." Dale stood. "I move that we formally clarify the charging station's status. It is Maya Chen's private property, installed with proper approval, and subject to no further HOA interference. All previous communications suggesting community access are hereby rescinded." Phyllis seconded. The vote was unanimous. Karen didn't say another word. She gathered her things, her movements sharp and jerky, and walked out of the clubhouse. The door slammed behind her. The meeting dissolved into murmured conversations. Several residents approached Maya, apologizing, explaining they'd had no idea. Maya accepted their apologies with quiet grace, too drained to feel triumphant. Dale caught her at the door. "I'm sorry, we should have caught this earlier." "It's not your fault." "It kind of is. Karen's always been intense, but I thought she was just enthusiastic. I didn't realize she was willing to lie." He shook his head. "I'll be recommending her removal as president. What she did was unacceptable." Maya nodded, exhausted. "I just want this to be over." "It is, you won." But when Maya got home that night, she didn't feel like she'd won anything. Her charger was still hers, her property rights intact. But her neighborhood had changed. The trust was broken. People looked at her differently now, some with respect, some with discomfort, all with awareness. She'd become visible in a way she'd never wanted. Newton greeted her at the door, meowing for dinner. Maya fed him, made tea, and sat by the window overlooking the courtyard. A few lights were on in neighboring townhomes, normal lives continuing. Her phone buzzed, a text from Jenna. "Heard you crushed it, proud of you." Maya smiled faintly and replied, "Thanks feels weird. Winning always does, enjoy it." But Maya couldn't, because she knew this wasn't over. Karen had lost a battle, but people like Karen didn't lose wars. They regrouped. They found new angles. They waited. The next morning, Maya's Tesla was keyed. A long, jagged scratch ran along the driver's side, cutting through the paint to bare metal. Maya stood in her driveway, staring at the damage, and felt her stomach drop. No note, no witnesses, just the scratch, deep and deliberate. She called the police, filed a report. The officer who responded was polite but unhelpful. "Without cameras or witnesses, there's not much we can do. Could be random vandalism." "It's not random. Do you have evidence pointing to a specific person?" Maya hesitated. "No." "Then I'm sorry. We'll keep the report on file. If it happens again, call us." The officer left. Maya stood alone, looking at her car, and felt the anger crystallizing. Karen had done this. Maybe not personally, but she'd created the conditions. She'd poisoned the well so thoroughly that someone felt justified in destroying Maya's property. Maya took photos, sent them to her insurance company.